One of the stories I shared was about a conference I spoke at in Canada some years ago. And in the afternoon, we divided into small groups, and I was with a group of mothers. And one of the moms initiated the conversation by sharing something that had happened in their family just the week before. She said that her 16-year-old daughter, Lisa, who had been going steady with a boy named David, who was nearly 3 years older. They met at the church youth group, and they formed a steady relationship soon after that. The week before, Lisa had come to her mother and said, "Mom, David and I are ready to have sex." Now, the mother was stunned. All of us would probably be stunned if our child came and announced that they were planning to do this with their boyfriend or girlfriend. The mother took a deep breath and said, "But Lisa, that sex is meant for love." And Lisa responded, "But Mom, David and I do love each other very much, and this is how we want to express it." Audrey referred to this as often the sort of thinking that impels young people into sexual intimacy. They feel that they're in love, and this is a natural way to express the depth of their feelings. The mother then turned to the group and said, "I was at a loss for words. I had no language." Now, we don't want to be in that mother's position of having no words to say. Our child may not come to us perhaps and disclose their intention to have sex with a boyfriend or girlfriend, but whatever the conversation, we don't want to be without the language that we need to express our deepest values, our convictions, and to do that in a way that appeals to young people's intelligence. Audrey pointed out that it's not enough simply to say no. In fact, young people often resent it if we simply say no. One 17-year-old girl said, "My parents told me over and over that sex is wrong, sex is a sin, but they never explained why, and I'm sick of hearing it." So that young person, like all adolescents, has a mind and intelligence and wants reasons. We need to explain our beliefs and values in this area, especially this area, in a way that appeals to their rational thinking. They're thinking human beings, and they need solid reasons that will ground them and enable them to have firm convictions of their own. The research that asks young people who are abstaining from sex, "Why are you abstaining?" interestingly shows that they typically don't say, "I'm afraid of getting pregnant." They don't usually say, "I'm afraid of getting STDs." They usually say something like, "It goes against my values to have sex before marriage, to have sex at my age. It goes against my beliefs." So it's really their internal convictions of conscience that enables them to withstand the pressure from the media, the pressure from their peer group, and to make a decision to follow a different path. So our conversation should contribute to those convictions of conscience, such that they will be governed by that internal regulator even when we're not around to counsel them, even when they're facing strong temptations or pressures. Now, what might that Canadian mother have said? She might have said to Lisa, "First of all, thank you for coming to me. A lot of kids don't check in with their parents before they take this step. I appreciate your trust and your respect in doing that. Now, you said you and David love each other very much. Let's talk about the meaning of love. What does it mean to really love another person? It means to want what is best for them. When you really love another person, you're concerned about their welfare, their happiness, their future. You would never gamble with those things if you really want what is best for them. Is having sex with someone you're not married to truly an act of love by that standard? What are the risks involved? Pregnancy, disease, a broken heart. What if you and David were to break up? Will you come to regret this? If you really love someone, will you subject them to those kinds of risks? Will you gamble with their emotional welfare, with their future happiness? You won't take those kinds of risks if you truly want what is best for them. I came across a pamphlet some years ago that says the same thing in very beautiful language, and I've recommended these words to parents, and they actually happen to be part of one of the articles that you have. You don't need to find it now, but you have it in the article titled Raising Children of Character. And the pamphlet said this: "Love is patient, love is kind. Love wants what is best for another person. Love will never cross the line between what's right and wrong. It's wrong to put another in danger of having to deal with hard choices, choices that could change your lives forever. Having sex before marriage may feel right for the moment, but the possible costs of an unexpected pregnancy, abortion, and sexually transmitted disease, as well as the deep hurts that can come from a broken relationship, outweigh the feelings of the moment. If you are getting to know someone or are in a relationship, remember, if it's real love, love waits. So we might share words like those with our child, written by someone else. Sometimes it's very important, to bring in another source, as it were, to validate our perspective. It lends objectivity and further reinforcement. So the Canadian mother, unfortunately, was at a loss for words. We don't want to be in the same position. We want to be prepared with the language to say, and we want to take the initiative proactively to have these conversations with our child. Parents are the most powerful single influence in the life of children, even more powerful than peers, the research shows. If parents, in fact, cultivate a strong relationship and use that relationship to teach a clear sense of right and wrong, kids are able to withstand peer pressure if they have that firm foundation from their families. Now, how do we know this? Is there solid research that shows it? There was a study carried out called the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent Health. This is summarized in the Red newsletter, which you have among your materials, but just briefly. It studied 80,000 teenagers in the United States from communities all across the U.S., and it looked at those factors that protected young people against involvement in high-risk activity, drinking and driving, using drugs, violent activity, and sexual involvement. What factors tended to keep a young person safe from involvement in those activities? The strongest factor that emerged, the researchers called family connectedness. The feeling on the part of the young person that someone in my family, some adult in my family, loves me very much and is involved in my life, knows what I'm doing, cares about me, keeps track of where I am, and so on. That strong sense of family connectedness was the single greatest protective factor that kept a young person from dangerous activities. The study also found that teenagers who said that their parents had talked to them about sexual values were also less likely to become involved in sex. So a conversation on that particular topic. And finally, parents who disapproved not only of teen sexual activity, but of contraceptive sex. They didn't approve kids having sex, and doing it safely. They were clear and explicit about that as well. That also correlated with a young person's lower likelihood of sexual involvement. Now, other studies have found that some parents have a conversation with sex, but the young person really didn't get the message or didn't think that they really talked about it. So, for example, one study asked mothers to agree or disagree with the statement, I have talked with my teenager about sex. And 73% of the mothers strongly agreed with that. Then they asked the teenagers the same question, agree or disagree. My mother has talked with me about sex. Only 43% of the teenagers said strongly agreed with that statement. So the moms had a perception that they had talked about this topic, but the teenagers did not. Now, one lesson we can draw from that is that we can't talk simply once. We have to reinforce the message again and again and again. When I interview parents, for example, about how their parents raised them to know right from wrong, to have a strong conscience, to be a person of character, they often say things like, in addition to my parents set a good example, my mother always said, or my father always said. It's like the broken record. They said it over and over and over. So they remember, my mother always said, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing. My father always said, any job worth doing is worth doing well. So we have to say it over and over and over in order for it to get deep in the wiring.